Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, welcome to my channel. My name is Stephanie Yates Anya, Steph Anya for short, and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. In today's video, we're going to be talking about ways to address trauma, referencing The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van Kolk. If you're curious, stay tuned. What's on your mind? Trigger warning: if the word trauma or just talking about trauma in general is triggering for you, this might not be the video for you. All right, guys, so if you've seen my last video on trauma, it's called 8 Signs That You Are Traumatized. In that video, I talk about some of the physiological responses to trauma and psychological that sometimes we overlook when we're experiencing trauma. I will actually, towards the end of this video, be responding to some of the comments or questions that I got in that video, but what we're going to be talking about a majority of this video are some of the things that van Kolk recommended through a 2-day training that I took with him, as well as in his book, The Body Keeps the Score. He is a medical doctor who specializes in researching and in treating trauma. His focus is on trauma's impact on the brain. I'll also share some of my tips for working through trauma based on what I've worked on with clients. When we think about working through trauma, the first thing that comes to a lot of our minds is therapy. And as a therapist, obviously, I'm a huge advocate for therapy. However, one of the things that van Kolk emphasized a lot in his book, as well as in the training, is that talk therapy is not always the best way to address particularly traumatic events. A lot of you have expressed an interest in being able to try things outside of therapy. Some of you are already in therapy, which is awesome. You're still dealing with the physiological responses to your trauma, and you're looking for some ways to alleviate those symptoms so you can move forward in your life. I'll be talking about some things you could look into on your own, as well as some things that maybe you could talk with your therapist or look for a therapist who could incorporate these into your work together. When I give this list, I want you to listen to all of the options, and some of them are going to seem very impractical for your life or the kind of person you are, and that's okay. Pick the thing that feels the most feasible to you, the thing that you could integrate into your life most easily, and you can work your way through the list of different things that could possibly be effective for you. So number 1, acupuncture. This specifically addresses dissociation and numbing. And that is because it targets your parasympathetic nervous system. That's part of the system that's responsible for regulating your unconscious actions. So trying something like acupuncture might be a way to bring your body back online. There are parts of our bodies, like we talked about in the last video, that could be completely numb in relation to a trauma or tragedy. Acupuncture could actually directly address those bodily experiences without you having to re-experience and tell the story of your trauma. That is not required. And it's also known to be effective for helping with emotional regulation. So if you're curious about maybe a method where you don't have to talk about, relive, re-experience your trauma, this might be a really great option for you. Similarly, you could try something like yoga. Yoga really ticks off 2 marks. It incorporates your body into processing trauma, and it also can help you build community if you're doing it in a group setting. That leads us to the next one, which is establishing community. Because trauma can be so alienating and isolating, making people often feel alone in their experience, building community and connection is extremely important for addressing your trauma responses. Things like synchronized dancing or singing in harmony or joining a church community. These are different things that might help you be able to feel a part of a community again. Being able to share space with people and feel like you belong. That addresses quite a few of the things that we talked about in the 8 signs that you are traumatized, such as self-loathing, difficulty incorporating new information, as well as feelings of dissociation, which can also catalyze a feeling of alienation and isolation. Re-engaging a person with the outside world. Remember, the goal is not to do any of these actions just one time and your trauma is gone. This is to help help bring your body back online and your brain back online in a way that is cohesive to living a fully functional life. So these are things that you would want to incorporate regularly into your life, not just a one-off and say, oh, it didn't work for me and don't try it again. Something that was very profound in the training is Kolk talked about the importance of imagination when you are working on trauma recovery. Why? Because as we talked about in the last video, people who have experienced trauma often get rigidly stuck in their past. In that moment where they were traumatized, they may have difficulty learning new things, difficulty comprehending what's happening to them in this moment. They may experience flashbacks, nightmares, and part of the way to address that is to help fuel their imagination. It's hard for them to imagine a different possibility, a different future. And so they stay stuck because sometimes what's familiar, even if what's familiar doesn't feel good at all to you right now, at least it's predictable. So a lot of times we make choices that we know rationally might not make the most sense for our goals, but if there's a part of us that's just not wanting to risk it and have to take on anything else new that could further traumatize us, we make choices to stay exactly where we are. And so Kolk recommended some things that could help expand your imagination in a way where you can envision futures that are not anchored or developed around your trauma experience. So one of the things that he suggested that I loved, because it's something that I used to do a lot of, is improv. Improv really keeps you on your feet. Again, it really meets that need for building connection with another person because you have to feed off what another person is saying. It forces you to stay in the moment and to allow yourself the opportunity to fail, right? You are thinking out of the box, trying to keep going, keep moving in a conversation, and improv is an excellent way to help build your imagination and build community. If you want to see about improv, you could look online to see if there are any improv groups within your community that maybe you could join, or sometimes they'll do improv workshops that you could just go and participate. You don't have to become a part of a club or anything. You can just go for an isolated event. Another tool is art. Being able to process what you're feeling into a painting, for example, or a song, into a choreographed piece. I've never heard someone not refer to it as therapeutic because you are literally transforming thoughts, dreams, things that have in a lot of ways bounded you to your past and taking control of that narrative, creating something new from it, being able to look at it and separate it from what you're dealing with right now. So that's another great way to both build imagination and create a separation between your trauma experience and what you're experiencing now. Theater is very similar to improv, except you have the guidelines of actually having a script to work with. But the reason why theater could be a really great way for you to address some of your trauma responses is because, first of all, you're in the process of learning something new every time you do a performance. You could be saying the same lines with the same exact person and having to pick up on different cues, change the way you respond, change the moment of silence. It's showing you that you could have the exact same moment over and over again in new and different ways. He said something very powerful, which was, our job is not to be shrinks. Our job is to be mind openers. So an effective therapist should be working with you to help you see and create new possibilities for your life, things that might feel like you're undeserving, right? Remember, we talked about self-loathing in that last video. You might feel undeserving of new opportunities. You might not feel pure. You might not feel worthy. But in actuality, you are absolutely worthy. And a good therapist is going to help you see that worth and help to build your self-esteem along in that process. Now, if you're wanting to do some more direct work, right? Maybe these things feel a bit too abstract for you and you're ready to jump into the meat of working directly through your trauma. Kolk showed a presentation of a psychodrama that he actually conducted, like a group setting of people who had experienced certain traumas, specifically childhood traumas. He essentially engaged everyone in a role play. Some people would play, for example, a person's parents, right? So he says, tell us the kind of things they would say or do to you, and someone would reenact it. Then he would have the ideal parents come, right? Completely new set of people. And he says, now, how would your ideal parents behave in this situation? You know, you come home and you tell them that you wrecked your car. How would your ideal parents respond to that situation? You come home and express to your parents that you've dealt with abuse in this situation. How would your parents, your ideal parents, respond to the situation? And it was so amazing. If that video is on YouTube, I'm going to put a link. It was so healing. You could see that people were recreating their narrative. They were making themselves the victor, creating the life and family that they wanted to within their own minds, so that they wouldn't be held captive to what they actually experienced, things that they really had no control over because it was the actions of other people. And so that I thought was a very powerful way to, if you're ready to work directly in your trauma, you know, these are things that you can ask a therapist if they are trained to do. You can say, I'm interested in utilizing psychodrama or role playing to address specific traumas. And that way you can maybe narrow down your search to exactly what you're looking for. Another thing you could look for in a therapist is a therapist who is trained in EMDR, which stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. EMDR is designed to help you talk through your trauma in a way that is desensitizing you to the traumatic feelings and physical responses that you have. So maybe you go to re-experiencing, maybe your heart starts beating really fast, maybe you start sweating, becoming panicky. And EMDR is a treatment that is designed to address those physiological responses to memories of your trauma. You keep going through it with the therapist until you are having a much more desensitized reaction. You're able to safely separate the present from the past. Some studies have shown that EMDR is actually even more effective than Prozac and other antidepressants for addressing depressive symptoms, particularly those that are connected with a traumatic experience. This is particularly great for adult trauma. A singular event, if you were in a bad car accident, for example, and you need to be able to think about that event without becoming completely frozen and stuck in that memory, without feeling certain things in your body, right? This is a great way to address specific traumas. Now, it can be helpful for complex trauma that you may have dealt with on multiple occasions, but that usually needs to be coupled with more extensive therapy and other methods to help you deal with the relational pieces, for example, or other factors that might not be able to be addressed through EMDR. So some of my tips that I have found to be most effective with clients, they are a little bit more involved in the trauma process because I am on the therapy end, so I'm not going to be able to conduct acupuncture with my clients, for example. Some things would be like writing a letter to the person who may have hurt you or the people involved in your trauma, whether that be parents who you feel did not accurately protect you, or a family member who was involved in your trauma directly, things like that. You could write a letter to them expressing what happened from your point of view, how it made you feel, and how it has impacted you to this day. Now, if you have the goal of also giving this person the letter, which is totally optional, you could burn it, throw it away, keep it, whatever you want to do. But if you do have the intention of giving it to them, I'd also encourage you to add into that letter what they could possibly do to help make you feel more at peace with the situation. Whether that be a request for an apology, a request for acknowledgement that it happened, maybe even an explanation from their perspective, a sit-down dinner. Because if they are willing to make those changes or provide that to you, you want to give them the opportunity to fully process and think about everything that you included in your letter. I also do another intervention that's similar to the psychodrama, but a bit different. I'm very big on writing, and I think that rewriting or just resharing the story from a more ideal, heroic perspective. This is a narrative technique that is often used. This way, you could say the story how you wished it happened. You could say, I screamed, for example, or my parents came and saved me. Just retelling the story how you wish it ended, so that even if it's false and never happened, you have some positive narratives surrounding that experience. And lastly, this is one that is really important for a lot of my clients, especially especially for my clients who might be dealing with the traumatic end to a relationship, whether that be the person passed away or cheated, or even just an abrupt breakup that was unexpected without closure. What I see happening so often is that my clients will completely avoid songs, artists, places. I've even had clients say they can't get off on certain exits because they are avoiding the memories or feelings associated with these cherished places that meant a lot to them with those people. It could be a grocery store that they are avoiding. I encourage my clients to start slowly revisiting those triggers. What we'll normally do is make a list of all the things that they avoid. It could be a certain streaming service. It could be a certain area in town. It could be something as simple as logging into one of your social media accounts or getting on a dating app. There are so many triggers that can come after you have had some sort of traumatic experience, especially interpersonally. And we make a list and then I rank them. Okay, what's the most invasive to the least invasive? And they'll say maybe, okay, logging back into this social media app is not going to be as bad as listening to this song. So we rank them and we start making our way through those triggers so that they can slowly start reclaiming aspects of their life that they have been denying themselves since the traumatic event. So if you are dealing with a traumatic experience that has made it so that you have all of these holes in your life, places you don't go, things you can't talk about, then I would highly encourage you to start slowly, bit by bit, re-engaging and creating positive memories outside of that person or outside of that experience in that space. Take your time. You don't want to be re-traumatized, but what I find most of the time is that my clients are pleasantly surprised that what they expected to feel in those spaces or listening to those things, it was no match for the fear that they had about those things, right? So like the actual experience did not meet their expectations. So if you are going to take away anything today from how I would encourage you to work through your trauma, start processing and reintegrating yourself into your life, I would encourage you to try some of those things and let me know. Have you tried any of these already and you saw success or failure with them? Or if you do go out and try them, please be sure to come back to the video and let us know how it's going. Let's create a community of people who are in their healing process and able to support each other. Okay, so those are some things that you can try. And I wanted to also address some of the comments and questions that I got in my last video. So the first thing is a lot of you very accurately pointed out that I was saying disassociation instead of dissociation. I appreciate you guys for pointing that out for me. I'm actually surprised. I have no excuse for that. I think I've actually been mispronouncing and probably misspelling that for a while. So thank you so much for bringing that to my attention. And the second thing that I want to talk about is quite a few of you were saying that, hey, everyone is traumatized. Everyone has experienced trauma. Now, I will say that while having negative experiences obviously is a part of life and is very common, we all have our own versions of things that have changed us forever, right? To experience a form of trauma and to be traumatized are not the same thing. To be traumatized, for you to get a diagnosis of PTSD, for example, typically a therapist or doctor is going to look to see whether or not you were able to function within your day-to-day life in a way that is productive to society, conducive to your goals. But to be traumatized is usually in a way where we're stopped in our tracks. Our life is not progressing forward. We're having difficulty articulating our feelings as a result of this experience. We're having difficulty feeling areas within our body because of this experience. So while I do know that the experience of trauma is becoming more and more well known, I do think it is a stretch to say that everyone is traumatized. So those are some suggestions based on The Body Keeps the Score that you could try to address some of the physiological trauma responses that you are having, or even cognitive trauma responses that you are having. If there are any therapists watching this or people who are in therapy who would like to see a follow-up video about some ideas for interventions, questions to ask in therapy based on The Body Keeps the Score training and book, let me know. I can do a follow-up video like that. I'm so glad that so many of you you found the last video to be helpful for you on your journey of healing, and I want to be able to provide you guys with any further videos that will help you in that process. So please don't hesitate to let me know your comments and suggestions down below. Again, my name is Stephanie Yates Anyabwile, Steph Anya for short. I truly appreciate you for watching this video all the way until the end. That really helps me with the YouTube algorithm and everything. So I thank you. I ask that you subscribe to this channel, like this video, and please share it with a friend, a few friends, followers. That really helps me too. So again, thank you, thank you, thank you.